My daughter's boyfriend revealed a secret I never expected to hear. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Eli stared at the floor and whispered, I was paid to date her. It's a Thursday night, dishes drying on the rack, pot roast resting under foil, and the quiet pride I carry after years of rebuilding hums like a refrigerator. I'm Dana, 48, clinic office manager, custodian of clipboards and copays. I have 3 rules. Lock the door, keep receipts, never let chaos back in. Since the divorce, Chloe and I have lived by them. Tonight, those rules feel like thin paper against a storm. Eli won't meet my eyes. His palms press flat on the table, as if he can iron the truth until it behaves. I know how this sounds, he says. Please listen before you tell me to leave. I don't move. I listen. He says someone close to us found him months ago. At first it was, be around her, make sure she's okay. Then, get the Wi-Fi password. Ask about her payroll app. See if she keeps a spare key. He mentions envelopes with cash, names he doesn't want to say, and a phone number saved only as P. Years at the clinic taught me to translate panic into tasks, fear into forms. This I cannot file. I think of Chloe, 22, fierce, finally in a sunlit studio she can barely cool in summer, badge clipped to her collar at the hospital's billing department. I picture the password manager she swears she uses, the old jewelry box from my mother, the tiny key on a ribbon she keeps for sentimental reasons. Who? I ask. He swallows. If I say the name, you'll throw me out, he says. He pulls a folded printout from his backpack and slides it to me. Bank transfers. App payments. Dates that match our calendar. My birthday dinner, her move-in day, the Sunday we signed the lease. Amounts highlighted in yellow. On one transfer, the memo reads, Good boy. The sender appears as P. Jensen, but the account email uses my ex-husband's initials. I set the paper down and feel the skin on my hands cool. Say it. I tell him, because rot grows in silence. He watches my face the way someone watches a fuse. Peter, Eli says, and the past I swore off pulls up a chair. When Chloe was 5, Peter taught her to snorkel in a motel pool while I guarded our towels from the wind. He was always good at performance. Easy smile, hand on your shoulder, big future promised with bigger words. The future never arrived on time, and when it did, it overdraft. I learned to stop waiting. We separated when Chloe was in high school. He called it a trial reset. I called it survival. He kept the glossy Friends and the weekend condo with a balcony that faced other balconies. Peter could be generous the way gamblers are generous. He bought Chloe a graduation necklace and then asked me to help him make the minimum payment on a card just this once. I said no. He sent flowers to the clinic after my promotion with a note misnaming my title. He joked that I ran the clipboard empire. A month ago, he crossed a line. He picked Chloe up from work unannounced and drove her to look at a car she deserved. The salesman said, Your dad told us you'd be excited. She wasn't. She called me from the lot and said, Tell him to stop deciding my future. Now Eli sits in my kitchen, trembling at the animal he's let out. It wasn't supposed to hurt her, he says. I was told to keep things gentle. His face is raw with the realization that gentle violence is still violence. I study the printout. 5 payments over 3 months, each landing the day after a family milestone. The emails use an address Peter once gave Chloe to send tax forms. I see a pattern, then a plan. The hurt tastes like pennies. Why you? I ask. He says Peter met him at the coffee shop where Eli used to work. Said he liked responsible young men. Said Chloe needed companionship and eyes on her because her mother makes her paranoid. Eli wipes his face. At first it was just dinners, he says. Then it was questions. Then it was anything that would make her trust me faster. I think of the necklace, the car lot, the flowers, the offhand jokes that wrap barbs and ribbon. A new understanding clicks, and dread starts measuring my next move. I stack the printouts, slide them into a folder, and open the drawer where I keep the slim blue notebook I use for emergencies. Dates, times, names. I write Eli confession and the time, circle it twice, then copy the transfer amounts. The clinic has a compliance officer who says, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen. My life obeys the same rule. I take a photo of the papers and email it to myself and to a backup account I only use for taxes. Why now? I ask. Eli says the last instruction changed everything. He wanted Chloe's two-factor code, he says. He said she would accidentally get locked out of her payroll app, then need to borrow his device to log in, just for a second. He looks sick. He promised another envelope if I could get her password manager master password. My hand goes cold on the pen. Did you? I ask. No, he says fast. I told him I needed more time. I told Chloe I was thinking of switching phones so I could start fresh. It would explain the verification texts. The printer in my mind starts spitting out labels: fraud, identity theft, coercion. The words feel too big to fit in my kitchen. I force the terms to smaller, safer language. Stolen data means bills in her name. Forged signatures means debt tied to her social security number. Old family asset means the small trust my mother left that could be raided with the right documents and a bold face. I picture the county clerk's counter with its chipped laminate and the way they staple receipts crooked. I breathe. You're going to help me fix this, I say. Everything you know, you tell me now. He nods. He gives me a number for P. He shows me a screenshot of the messages, including one that reads, "Need box key or access by Friday." Her mom's stubborn. My stomach tightens. Peter always treated stubborn like a diagnosis, not a line that kept us alive. I grab my purse and the folder. We're going for a drive, I tell him. We start with the bank. On the porch, the night feels crowded with invisible listening, like the dark itself has leaned closer. Headlights flare across the curb, too slow to be just passing by. At Peter's cousin's birthday, 30 people, soft jazz, too much glassware. He found a way to needle me in public without moving his lips. "Control looks good on you," he murmured, patting my elbow while telling a real estate story to a semicircle of nodding faces. Shame it makes Chloe so small. I smiled the way women smile when they are calculating exits. Chloe stood by the cake, laughing with Eli, not hearing the soft poison. Peter lifted his glass. "To independence," he said, eyes sliding over to me. "And to parents who know when to let the bird fly." A few chuckled. I swallowed the insult like a hard pill. After cake, a man in a cheap suit I didn't recognize watched Eli with the patience of a meter maid. When we left, the man stepped outside to take a call and angled the phone so we could read only the first letter of his contact, P. That night, while I rinsed plates, Eli set his phone on my counter and opened a folder of screenshots. Payment confirmations. Message fragments. "Always cash after family events," he said. "Always instructions that taste like compliments." A memo line said, "Good boy." The emails led to an alias I knew. Peter's Coach account he used when selling ambition to strangers. "There's more," Eli said. He scrolled to one message that looked like a bank alert. The domain was wrong by one letter. The trap was right by 10. "Forward this to Chloe," the sender wrote. "Act casual. She trusts helpful men." I wrote the fraud line in my blue notebook, then again inside my palm. "We don't escalate loud," I told Eli. "We escalate precise." He nodded. "He mentioned a key," he said, "on a ribbon she always wears, like a habit he meant to break." Chloe opened the door before I could knock, eyes bright with anger and something harder. "Did you take him to the bank without me?" she asked, voice steady the way bridges are before storms. I told her we froze online changes, created an incident number, and flagged any attempt tied to Peter's email. She stared at Eli. "Speak," she said. He did. He said he'd been paid to stay close and then to get closer. Passwords, codes, the key on her ribbon. Until his conscience felt like a blister he couldn't stop touching. "I thought I was protecting you from worse," he said. I told myself stories where I was a filter. Chloe shook her head. "You were a doorway he rented," she said, and I watched those words land on him like a verdict. I laid out the printouts and the plan. Morning meeting with the branch manager, supervised review of the deposit box, calls to the county recorder. My phone buzzed. "Peter, lunch tomorrow?" We should align about Chloe's choices. Choice is his favorite word when he wants to erase mine. I flipped the phone face down. "No more texting him tonight," I said. "We gather documents, not drama." Chloe went to her bedroom and came back with the ceramic dish. The red ribbon lay there, empty. "I wore it yesterday," she whispered. Her hands shook. We turned the house inside out and found nothing. The doorbell rang twice a few minutes later, almost cheerful, And when I looked through the peephole, the porch was empty except for a thick, white envelope addressed to me in Peter's showy hand. I brought the envelope to the table like biohazard, sliding it with a wooden spoon, pulling on dish gloves, pretending that procedure could purify intent. Inside, a single-page authorization on the credit union's letterhead, almost correct font, almost correct spacing, bearing my name and a confident, counterfeit signature, granting a temporary agent access to our box for inventory and valuation. Paperclip attached, a small brass key on a red ribbon that smelled faintly of Chloe's vanilla lotion. No hard feelings. A sticky note added, 2 centimeters of smug yellow. Let me clean this up. PJ. I don't sign with a looping N. My hand prints like I drive. Short, efficient, deliberate. That isn't yours, Chloe said, voice low, and I watched something inside her change shape. Eli swallowed. He wanted you both to believe this is already decided, he said, and that he's the adult in the room. I photographed everything, front and back, then sealed the page inside a plastic sleeve. I texted Joyce, the teller who trusts her instincts, and asked if we could meet the branch manager at opening for a supervised inspection. Come early, she replied. Bring ID. Bring the key. Bring steel. I placed the ribbon key on a plate like evidence at communion and sat very still. Peter's trick was always the same. Create confusion and offer himself as the cure, a doctor who knows a guy, a father who wants what's best. I wrote 3 words in my notebook and underlined them twice. Verify, witness, record. Then headlights slid slow past our windows like a hand across a face, and someone idled at the curb long enough to memorize our address. By dawn, we were standing at the credit union's side door, Chloe in jeans and a coat over a t-shirt from high school, Eli silent, repentant, gray with lack of sleep. Joyce waved us in before opening hours and took us to Ms. Patel, the branch manager whose office held neat plants and a diploma that made the air feel accountable. I told the story in bullet points: the confession, the payments, the forged authorization, the key on the ribbon, the night car, the sticky note. Ms. Patel listened, then asked the right questions. Do you consent to an immediate audit pull on the box? And are you prepared to involve our fraud officer and law enforcement? Yes and yes, I said, and Chloe squeezed my hand once under the desk. Their internal log showed the last legitimate access 2 years ago, me, alone, adding a trust amendment, followed by 2 failed attempts last week using a letter that didn't match the bank's template. The system flagged an employee ID tied to a temp who'd already left. Ms. Patel frowned. We'll interview, she said. The fraud officer joined by speakerphone and explained next steps. Freeze changes, watch the accounts, place a credit freeze, document plain facts. Joyce added, we can do a supervised opening with video to confirm contents. I nodded. Fear thrives in maybe. I wanted known. We followed Ms. Patel toward the vault and reached the frosted glass when her assistant rushed up, breathless, saying a gentleman in a navy blazer insisted he was already on our access list and wanted the vault ready in 10. Peter never learned how to look small. Even the lobby chair tilted toward him. He stood when we entered and smiled like a headshot. Good morning, Dana, he said, as if we'd agreed. Chloe. He hugged the air near her without touching, then glanced at Eli with a crisp, dismissive nod. We're here to streamline a messy situation. Ms. Patel stepped between our history and her branch. Sir, access is restricted to registered box holders and verified agents, she said. Your name is not on file. Peter's smile tightened one tooth. There's an authorization, he replied, perfectly reasonable, signed by Dana last week. I held up the plastic sleeve and watched his eyes flicker, half to the font, half to my gloves. This forgery? I said calmly. This performance? He put a hand to his chest. Dana, come on, he murmured. You know I wouldn't what? I asked. Try to rescue us from a problem you manufactured? Ms. Patel cleared her throat. We will proceed with a supervised opening for the holder on record and her guest, she said, eyeing Chloe. Sir, you may wait in the lobby or leave. Peter considered a scene. Then he sat. In the vault room, the camera watched like a stern ant. I turned the key with Ms. Patel present. The lid hissed faintly as the seal broke. Inside, trust paperwork, birth certificates, Nana's will, the tiny velvet box with her wedding band, and an envelope marked Insurance, 2002. I counted aloud, naming documents for the video. Then I saw it, a notarized letter authorizing future transfer of trust oversight upon family consensus, bearing my old address and a stamp date from 6 months after the divorce, with a signature that looked like mine if you only knew me from parties. The notary stamp belonged to a business dissolved 8 years ago. We closed the box, and Ms. Patel sealed a new log with today's date, her initials, and a note about suspected prior tampering attempt with counterfeit authorization. Back in the office, I spread the questionable letter beside Nana's will. The differences were small, like wrong notes in a familiar song. Line spacing a touch wider, a comma style I never use, and the way the capital D curved like a flourish rather than a tool. "This is the target," I said softly. "Transfer oversight requires my consent or proof of incapacity." He tried to create both. Chloe pointed to the stamp date and the notary line. "The notary business dissolved 8 years ago," she said. "Who stamped this 6 years after that?" I felt a cold, faithful anger settle into purpose. Eli looked from me to the door. "He's already calling someone," he whispered. Through the glass, we could see Peter on his phone in the lobby, head bent, thumb moving. Ms. Patel excused herself to speak with security. I pulled out my phone and dialed Attorney Malik, the meticulous man who helped me divide furniture without dividing Chloe. He answered on the second ring. I spoke quickly. "Suspected forgery, bank, letter, notary, temp clerk, payments to Eli. Document everything," he said. "Do not confront him alone. County records next. If a deed of trust or lien moved, we'll find the filing." He paused. "And Dana?" "Brief. Precision beats volume today." I hung up and looked at Chloe, who was watching Peter watching us. "We'll need you at the county building," I said. She nodded, chin high, eyes bright. Then Peter finished his call, stood, and started toward Ms. Patel's door as if the ending he wanted were already written. Peter reached for the office door as if he worked there, as if doors opened because he wanted them to. Ms. Patel met him at the threshold with a posture I recognized from nurses facing belligerent relatives. "Sir, you may wait outside," she said, "or we will ask you to leave the branch." He smiled, but his eyes sharpened. "Dana," he said softly, "just for me, you're embarrassing us." I watched him aim guilt like a laser pointer across the floor. "There's nothing to hide," I replied, "so feel free to sit." He sat. He called across the lobby, lunch still on, and a couple reading brochures looked up, curious. I felt my pulse kick and forced it back down with my notebook. We went to the county recorder. The hallway smelled like toner and dust and duty. Malik met us there, immaculate as always, with a legal pad and a pen he respected. "We're looking for any filings after the divorce that affect the Henderson Trust or any property tied to Dana or Chloe," he told the clerk. The search returned one surprise. A lien inquiry posted 2 weeks ago against the condo Peter bragged about, filed by a lender out of state. "He's underwater," Malik murmured. Pressure explains sloppiness. Chloe stood very still. "If he's desperate, he will be dangerous," she said. Malik nodded. We proceed with control. At home I cooked pasta because boiling water is a way to measure time. Eli sat at the table and described in full the last conversation with Peter. Promises of an envelope, a script for getting 2-factor codes, a suggestion to be helpful with Chloe's new employee paperwork. "He said we could make this clean by Friday," Eli said. The word clean tasted like bleach. Malik drafted a letter to Peter demanding he cease contact with Chloe regarding financial matters and preserve all communications for a potential civil action. "Serve it tomorrow," he said, "and invite him to a meeting he won't control." I asked where. Malik smiled thinly. "Here," he said, "at the bank, in front of documents and people who take notes." We set the trap for noon Thursday at the branch, and I invited Chloe to witness every inch of the truth. And then the door opened, and everything we planned tilted sideways. Thursday came cold and bright. Ms. Patel booked the conference room with the camera that clicks when recording starts. Joyce placed a pitcher of water that no one would drink. Malik laid out a tidy stack, payment screenshots, forged authorization, bank logs, and a draft complaint with blank spaces waiting for names. Peter arrived exactly 3 minutes late, carrying charm like a briefcase. "This is unnecessary theater," he said, genial to the room and surgical to me. Malik introduced himself. voice calm enough to hold water. "We'll be concise," he said. "We're documenting facts, not feelings." The fraud officer joined by video, her tone brisk as a metronome. Malik walked through the exhibits. Payment to Eli for $100, January 14th. Memo, good boy. Payment, $600, February 11th. Memo, progress. Email from alias used by Mr. Jensen. Peter glanced at Eli and smirked, then slouched as if bored. "Young people need guidance," he said. I encouraged it. Malik slid the counterfeit authorization across the table without touching it. "Here is a forged signature purporting to be Dana's," he said. "Here is the bank's template for comparison. Here is the notary stamp used by a business dissolved in 2017. MS. Patel confirmed the discrepancies and read the access log. 2 failed attempts last week with mismatched credentials, now flagged. Peter adopted his favorite pose. Injured patriarch, too dignified for details. "I was trying to protect my daughter from her mother's paranoia," he said, looking at the camera as if auditioning. "This has gone far enough." Malik's mouth did not change, but his pen did not move for a beat. "It has," he agreed. "Which is why you'll sign this acknowledgement that you have no authority over the box or the trust, will not attempt access, and will cease communication with Ms. Henderson and Chloe regarding finances." Peter smiled. "Or," he asked. Malik set another sheet on the table. "Or we file for injunctive relief today and refer these materials to the district attorney." And then the door opened, and everything we planned tilted sideways. "Let's stop pretending," Peter said, voice dropping as if he thought honesty required whispering. "I needed liquidity. The condo is in a temporary squeeze. A partner is pressing. This is all solvable if Dana would stop playing hall monitor." He pressed his fingers together and looked at the camera with a missionary's patience. "My mistake was trusting amateurs." Malik didn't blink. "Your mistake was criminal exposure," he said. "Explain the payments to Eli." Peter shrugged. "Companionship," he said. "Mentorship. He's a good kid." He leaned toward Eli. "Tell them." Eli didn't move. "You told me to get her master password," Eli said. "You told me to forward the phishing link and make it look like help." Ms. Patel slid a printout across the table. The internal note from the attempted access, including a scan of the fake letterhead. "We have a process," she said. "You tried to fake it." Peter rolled his eyes at the ceiling. "I tried to fix what Dana never manages," he said. "She makes everything about control." I breathed once slow. "I make everything about documentation," I said. "There's a difference." Malik asked one last question. "Who stamped this notary?" Peter's eyebrows lifted, theatrical surprise. "How would I know?" he said. Malik tapped his phone and turned it so the room could see a message he had queued. A screenshot from the Secretary of State's site showing the notary's dissolution, followed by a second screenshot of a social post from last month. Peter at a backyard barbecue captioned, "With my favorite fixer," tagged with the dissolved notary's former owner. Silence changed shape. Peter's anger finally showed, ragged and unphotogenic. "You'll ruin Chloe's life," he hissed, pointing at me as if cameras were knives pointed back. "Employers don't like families with drama." I let the camera record the threat. Malik stacked the papers into 2 neat piles. "Your move is simple," he said. "Sign, and we contain this. Or we escalate and you meet discovery." Peter stared at the pen, then at the door, then at Chloe, who lifted her phone and pressed record. The pen hovered, but Chloe spoke first with something devastating. Peter left without signing. Malik filed the request for a temporary restraining order that afternoon, attaching the exhibits and a declaration from Ms. Patel. The judge set a hearing for Monday and granted a short-term order limiting contact and prohibiting any attempt to access financial accounts or the deposit box. The credit freezes went through. We changed passwords, closed old logins, and turned off forwarding rules I didn't remember setting. Chloe slept on my couch that night, anger curled like a cat on her chest. Eli took the floor because guilt apparently prefers hard surfaces. I lay awake and inventory became prayer. Birth certificates, will, trust, receipts, phone backups, incident numbers, a map of what still belonged to us. The next morning the county clerk emailed. Someone attempted to file a lien against Nana's ring using a secured property form meant for equipment, stamped by a mobile notary with a suspiciously fresh commission number. Malik called the DA's office, who asked for everything. Exploitation of identity, attempted fraud, Potential conspiracy. The investigator said, voice careful. We'll review quickly. That afternoon, my supervisor pulled me into her office. Take Monday, she said. Handle your family. We've seen you carry everything for years. My throat surprised me by burning. Carrying is only admirable until people notice the weight. Sunday, Peter sent a final text. You win for now. Be careful what you wish for. I forwarded it to Malik and blocked his number. Eli packed a small bag and said he would stay with his brother until the hearing. He paused at the door. I'll testify, he said. I'll say everything I did and everything he said. That's how we pay the bill, I told him. With truth. After he left, Chloe and I made tea we didn't drink and folded laundry we didn't need, hands practicing normal while our minds rehearsed court. Monday morning came gray and noisy, and the courthouse smelled like old paper and rehearsed apologies. The bailiff called our case as Peter finally walked in. The judge listened the way good doctors listen. Eyes steady, questions simple, follow-ups precise. Malik spoke like a map, where we started, where we turned, where we nearly got lost. Ms. Patel testified by video, calm as a ledger. Eli told his part without flinching, shame in his voice, but backbone in his sentences. Peter represented himself for drama's sake and lost the room by minute 7, complaining about paranoid mothers and small-minded clerks. The judge signed the longer restraining order, referred the notary irregularities to the DA, and warned Peter that any attempt to contact Chloe about money would be contempt. When the gavel fell, Chloe exhaled a sound I hadn't heard since she was little and woke from a fever, relief that made the air feel usable again. In the weeks after, healing wasn't cinematic. It was insurance forms, password managers, credit monitoring, therapy appointments at 6 p.m. when I could get there still wearing my badge. Chloe and I made a written boundary plan. Information we share, accounts we separate, scripts for calls from unknown numbers. No more improvising, I told her. Improvising is how other people write our lines. She kept the ribbon key in a small safe we bought together, code split between us like a promise. Eli asked if he could try again. As a person who tells truths first, Chloe said maybe later, maybe never. Either answer was honest. At work, I said no to extra shifts I would have said yes to last year. Saying no felt like medicine that tasted like metal and worked like sunlight. A month later, the DA charged Peter with attempted fraud and identity theft. A partner pled to a lesser charge and agreed to testify. I did not cheer. I took a walk and let my feet touch every crack in the sidewalk, counting them like stitches I no longer needed to hold myself together. Then an unknown number flashed again with a new, colder promise. What I learned is not elegant, but it holds. Love is not surveillance. It is presence with paperwork, the kind that keeps your people safe when charm becomes a weapon. Dignity is not pride. It is knowing what you will not sign, even when the forgery flatters you. Money is not love. It is a tool that remembers whose hands shake and whose hands steal. If you are watching this and your stomach is a small stone because something feels off, odd emails, helpful links, pressure packaged as kindness, start a notebook today. Write dates, times, names. Make copies. Freeze what can be frozen. Ask for a fraud officer by title, not by first name. Cameras are not rude. They are witnesses that don't forget. For older viewers who raised children through storms and are tired of weather, here is my practical list. Use a password manager and never share the master password. Turn on two-factor authentication, but never read codes aloud, even to family. Keep original documents in a deposit box with a verbal password at the bank. Store copies at home. Learn your county recorder's website. Know how to place a credit freeze and how to lift it for a day when you need to. If someone offers to fix a mess they made, decline their hero audition. If a person you love confesses a small betrayal to stop a larger one, ask for evidence and then decide how to use it without burning yourself in the fire. I no longer measure safety by quiet nights. I measure it by receipts that match the truth, by a daughter who keeps her own key, and by a future where charm can't edit our records or our memory. Because peace is paper too, and someone is always reaching.